Okay, so let's officially start our meeting. And good afternoon, everybody. I hope you Brazilians have had a good Carnival holiday. Well, first I'd like to thank you, Simone and Bruce. They are not here, but the creators of English Brazil International for allowing me to host and invite Elaina to be here on this Ash Wednesday. Okay. Well, today we have some new people here, like João have already been participate, yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, and I'm waiting some other guys that said that we would come, but okay, let's wait for them. Well, let me talk a little bit about Elaine. I met her in 2020 when she was an EB organizer. Do you remember, Elaine? Elena, at that time the sessions were separate into subject like psychology, you have stock market and finance, you have gymnastics, and so on. And most of Elena's themes were about lifestyle, nutrition, and well-being. Okay, and today I invite her to talk about her experience during the time she lived abroad, her professional background, and his life as a nutrition coach and consultant. Okay. Well, how does this meeting work? I think that everybody must feel comfortable to ask questions. Just avoid subjects like policy and religion. Okay. When you want to speak, you have a heart in the bottom of the screen called a react. If you want to speak or make a question, you can just press this icon react, and you raise your hand, and you can make the question, make a question. Okay. Okay. So, Elaina, please introduce yourself for our group.
Well, it's an honor to be here, to be back in English Brazil. As Brucey said, I was one of the hosts back in 2020. And I think it was for a full year, I was one of the hosts of English Brazil just to discuss with groups, of people. We would discuss nutrition, health, lifestyle, well-being, all of that. And I am a registered dietitian here in Brazil, and I'm also a nutrition coach. And I lived in the US when I was 21. I was an au pair in the US for a year, and it was a great experience to learn English and have just an abroad experience. It was really great. And since then, I've traveled a lot. I've been to Montreal once, like for a week or something, which was very interesting. I've been to many places in the US, and I've worked for American companies probably since for over 12 years as an office manager for American law firms here based in Brazil. And then, since then I made the transition to, I was very passionate about nutrition due to my own health problems back in 2010. And then it was like a long journey figuring out what was going on and everything. And after my father passed, it was very traumatic to me because he was only 49 years old and he had a brain stroke. And it was like, you're never prepared to experiences like that. And then that was very stressful to me. And then back then I started to look for answers like what's going on. I don't feel normal anymore. And that's where everything started with nutrition. So I was looking for a solution, and all of the doctors would say that everything was fine, was normal. And of course it was not normal. I know my normal. So since then I started to study nutrition, and then it became a passion. I did first the nutrition coach in the US, then I became a registered dietitian here in Brazil, and that's what I do now full time. So it is a pleasure to be here, to get to meet you, and I'm here to talk whatever you guys want to talk. Like if you want to ask questions in regards to nutrition, lifestyle, whatever it is, I'm open to discuss what you feel like.
Okay, people. Thank you very much, Elena. I think that people, you are free to make questions to her. And Elena, before, I think that the first thing that everybody get curious is what place did you live when you were abroad?
I live in Baltimore in the US. So because I was an au pair, when you do the au pair program here in Brazil, you basically match with a family. And of course, back then I was 21. I didn't care which city was, because I remember now back the Brazilians was like, oh, I want to go to this city. I want to go to that city. I just wanted to find a nice family and then, you know, really have the experience because I wanted to study and everything. So I was living in Baltimore, in Maryland, which is the East Coast. So it's close to New York, Washington, D.C., and all of that. And then I was, yeah, so in Baltimore is an amazing place, actually. If you talk to Americans, I remember talking to a lot of Americans because as I said, I've worked for American companies for over 12 years. And every time I would mention that I lived in Baltimore, they were like, oh, Baltimore, because Baltimore is considered a dangerous city in the US compared to other cities. But I'd say I've never felt safer. I've never lived in a safer place in my entire world, in my entire life, because they think, you know, Baltimore was dangerous. And I said, well, I'm from Sao Paulo. So have you been to Sao Paulo? Have you been to Brazil? So when you compare, of course, you know, and I lived in a very nice neighborhood in Baltimore. And yes, the numbers, like when you compare the cities in the US, Baltimore can be considered, like some neighborhoods can be considered one of the most dangerous like neighborhoods in the US, yes. But Baltimore is very big and there are many other neighborhoods and places that are super safe. And just so you know, where I lived with my host family, they would not lock the door. And that would drive me crazy because I would feel like terrified not to have, like, not to lock the door, coming from Brazil, like being from Brazil. And that was very weird to me. But just so you know how safe it was, the neighborhood I would live. So yeah, so it was amazing. I loved the fact that Baltimore is by the water. So there's a harbor there in downtown. So it was just very pretty. And I was very close to Washington, D.C., so I would travel there. I also went to New York City a few times by taking the bus. I think it was a 6-hour driving, you know, by bus. So yeah, so it was an amazing experience, I can tell.
Yeah. Do you intend to come back to US? Do you have something in your plan to come back to live in US, or you prefer to stay
Um,
here?
I well, I don't know. Like I love culture. That's one thing. I'm very open to culture, and I love connecting to people from all over the world. And I don't know if I would live in the US, but visiting, yes. Like I still want to visit many times, but I don't know. Maybe for a while. I don't know. It would have to make sense with the life that I have right now and with my partner and all of that. But it's definitely a country that I like and I admire.
Okay. And I remember that you have an interesting history. How did you decide to work in this area? Because you made a big change in your career, and because you were an employee of a company, then you decided to have your own business. Yeah. So how was this experience? How did you make this decision?
Yes, the professional transition from being an employee full time to becoming, and then I was a health coach part time while I was still working in the office, and I was seeing clients in the morning just as a health coach. And then after I graduated as a registered dietitian, I made the transition. I'll answer that in a bit. Eric, do you want to ask a question?
No, go ahead. You can answer that first.
Yeah.
Then
Okay.
I'll ask my question later.
All right. So yes. So I'll tell you this. It was not. It was a very natural transition. because I was 100% sure of what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And I love seeing clients. I love seeing results. I love working with nutrition. And the fulfillment that I would have from this practice was way bigger than my office job, which I still liked. I liked my job. So it was not something that, because it took me some time to make the transition. And I think it was more like, we have to deal with our internal fears of, now I have, I'm on a paycheck and I have a security job and all of that, to transition into your own practice. But at the end, even though I liked my job and I was very open to everyone in the office, they all supported me in this career and all of that. But eventually, I saw myself not wanting to grow in that career anymore as an office manager and working, for American offices or American law firms in São Paulo. So I just decided to make the transition. And while I was still, in college, I was doing a lot of, I'd say mental work. I'd say like mindset work to become an entrepreneur, because entrepreneurs have to think very differently from employees, if you know what I mean. So I did a lot of that work. So the book that Marcela mentioned, Greed, so it is a great addition to anyone who wants to be an entrepreneur. And it's a different mindset, and you have to manage a lot of your inner dialogue. So that's one thing that I also use in my practice with my clients, because when you're seeing clients and they want to change their health, they want to lose weight, and they want that permanently, they want that change permanently. So you have to work a lot on their mindset. So that was very helpful to me as well, to make this transition. Because if you're putting a lot of fear that, oh, this thing won't work, and you're not seeing your pay, like I had a very comfortable life in corporate. So the office that I worked in was amazing. My boss, I couldn't love him more. My boss in New York, they all adored me and I adored them. It was a pain, like, just to leave. And but anyways, eventually you only have one life, and then you have to ask yourself, okay, what do I see myself doing for the rest of my life? And the answer was nutrition. So I had to go for that. And that's what basically made, me make the transition.
Okay, great. Eric, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so you have vegans and you have people that follow the carnivore diet.
Yeah.
What is your opinion on either of these? Because to me, it doesn't sound too healthy to go to the either extreme. Is there any sort of like science based for any of these, or are both of them nonsense? How does that work?
Yeah.
Who needs that? I don't know. Because some people need it, right? Because some people have health issues. But go ahead.
Yeah. Eric, where are you from?
I'm Brazilian.
Oh, you're Brazil, but where? Which city?
Well, I live in Belo Horizonte.
Oh, okay. Just to
Yeah.
know. Yeah. Okay. Nice. Yes. So that is a long question. Answer, I'd say. So okay. So vegans and carnivores. Are anyone familiar with the carnivore diet, or is there anyone who doesn't know, have no idea what the carnivore diet is about? Anyone? So everyone knows what the carnivore diet is about, right? So I can answer
Yeah.
him. Okay. Before we answer, we think about what's the sign, what is good, what is best. We have to go back to how studies in nutrition are made. So they're basically made of many of them, and many claims that we have in nutrition today is from epidemiology studies, epidemiological studies. And what are these? We get big groups of populations, and then we kind of like associate things. So for example, I get a population here in Brazil, I get a population here in São Paulo, and I want to get to know how people in São Paulo are having, I want to make an association with heart attack, for example. And then from this association, I'm going to try to investigate what kind of like people in São Paulo do, basically. What are their lifestyle? What do they eat? And then let's assume that I'm going to say that people in São Paulo, most of them are omnivores. They eat both plants and meat. And they also have a high rate of heart attack, for example. And then I can start to make these associations. But the problem is that association is not causation. And I'm going to give a better example. There was a time in which they were relating, what was the habit? I want to remember now. I think it was a habit related to smoking. There is the habit related to summer, like eating ice cream and being killed by sharks. So you can make this association. So if you have like people who eat ice creams are more subject to being killed by sharks. And why is that? Because by that beach in which was created that statement, there were sharks during summer, and then people have more ice cream during summer. So you see how like causation, association is not causation.
Yeah.
So
totally disconnected,
yes, there is a lot of that in nutrition. A lot of what you hear in nutrition in the news is based on epidemiological association, but not causation. And one of them is meat cause cancer. There is no such a study that proves that meat causes cancer. By the way, the study that is done showing the association of meat causing cancer, the point was, I think it was like 1 point something, which is not even considered carcinogenic or something. So now that you know that, okay, now that you know that, what do I think about the vegan diet and what do I think about the carnivore diet? I think they're both extreme diets, okay? Both extreme. But I think in nutrition, we need to leave our passion behind. Because if I'm more prone to the omnivore diet, it doesn't mean I'm against the vegan diet nor the carnivore diet. Because the moment someone is doing great in the vegan diet, I'm all prone to it. When I see clients, I have to be super neutral and respect what's best for them. However, what I see is vegans not knowing how to approach veganism, which means they're now gonna exclude protein and basically the vegan proteins like protein powders, tofu, plant proteins, they're not bioavailable in the body as it is animal protein. What is bioavailable? Bioavailable means how your body can easily use that source of nutrients. So plants, they have a lot of anti-nutrients, things like lectins, for example, because back in history, animals can fight for their lives, but plants cannot. So in order to prevent themselves to be eaten, they would poison the animals with those anti-nutrients, lectins, for example. So that's how they survived. And then until these days, and of course, our bodies can digest lectins. And of course, there are things that we can do to minimize lectins, those anti-nutrients in the body. And the problem with excess anti-nutrients are that they fight with, for example, the absorption of other nutrients such as iron and B vitamins, for example. So, for example, what are the foods that has, for example, lectins? Beans, for example, nuts and seeds, but you can soak them in water for 24 hours and then discard that water and then cook them. If you pressure cook, for example, beans, you're gonna minimize the amount of lectins like a lot. And then it's way more digestible if you soak them first and then you cook them. With that, what I tell you is that if you know how to properly, and if I'm seeing a vegan client, and I can tell by their symptoms, because I don't like, their symptoms cannot be more important than what it's showing in their health, their blood health, their blood test. So the symptoms are way more important, and I have to consider that. And then if they're telling me by their symptoms, by their blood tests, by their body composition in general, if they're thriving in that diet, I'm all too good with that. However, many times that's not what I see. I always need to correct the amount of protein they're eating. There are a lot of vegans that are overweight and obese because they don't eat a lot of protein, and because bread is vegan, pasta is vegan. So it's very easy to fill in those. So I'm not against, but there are a lot of vegans that they had a lot of health problems with veganism, like really being detrimental to their health. And the problem is that there is a lot of people who still believe veganism is the most healthy diet that you can be on, and that's not accurate. And then there's the other fact that if you're a vegan and you're doing well, that's great. But if you're not, I would speak to the clients to either like, okay, let's improve your vegan diet and see what we can do here. But I would have this conversation with them. They need to be aware of the problems, because the media is a source of misinformation. That's what I can tell, as a dietitian. Yeah. And then for the carnivore diet, that's another extreme. But the thing is that I don't care if it's an extreme being a vegan or a carnivore diet. As long as this is how you feel your best, I'm going to support you in the best way. And let's correct what's out of balance, and then let's support. But then the one thing that I need to talk about is that, okay, this diet is not serving you. When I see that, we need to have this conversation. Like, this is maybe not the best diet for you. And then the carnivore diet, what I think about it is that it is a very extreme diet, but we are seeing thousands of people giving their testimonial online on the internet. And one of the most famous one is the daughter of Jordan Peterson, like Michaela, is that her name? Michaela Peterson. So the daughter of Jordan Peterson, this girl, I follow these people and I want to hear what they have to say about this diet, because as a registered dietitian, I need to be open to everything and their experiences. And this girl had all sorts of health problems that you can possibly think of. And the only thing that made her feel her best is being on a carnivore diet, which she was following for 6 years. And this girl was looking perfectly healthy. She was feeling amazing. She tried with vegetables and everything and all of that. But that has a lot to be with her immune system and how fruits and vegetables and plants can attack the immune system, and things such as gluten and dairy, they all can attack the immune system for some people. So who am I to say that this diet is crazy? That was the only thing that made this woman feels her best. And then there's another example here in Brazil. There is an athlete called Medeiros. I want to remember his name. I think it's Eduardo Medeiros. I don't know if his first name is Eduardo Medeiros, but if you type on Google Medeiros, the carnivore diet, there is and I follow his nutritionist here in Brazil. This guy did a triathlon, fasted. He's been following a carnivore diet for many years now. And he had all sorts of problems when he was following an omnivore diet. And now he's doing the carnivore diet. He's feeling great. So they have their social media. I follow them both because I'm just curious. I want to see. And then this year, I think he's beaten some records and all of that as an athlete, as a carnivore athlete, which we also have some in the US. And this year, I think he did a triathlon fasted, completely fasted. Just so you guys know how many dogmas we have in nutrition that they're based in epidemiological data, basically. So that's what it is.
Right. Thank you.
Sure.
That was a great answer. Also, I follow as well Jordan Peterson. I did see his daughter, and that's one of the things as well, because I was noticing in my own life, you know, and I was
Yeah.
wondering if I should, because if you're going to transition to meat in Brazil, you have to make a big decision because it's a bit more expensive. So if I'm going to buy more meat, I have to really exclude some other things to keep the budget roughly about the same, you know. But yeah, because
Mhm.
it does seem like I feel way better just eating a small piece of meat as opposed to a big plate of rice, beans, corn, potatoes, and things like that. You know, but that was a curiosity that I have. I have other
Yeah.
questions, but I'm gonna see if someone else wants to throw a
No,
question out.
you can go ahead. If it's connected to the subject that you're talking about, go ahead.
Okay, air fryers. People in the nutrition world hate on them, telling that things that you make in the air fryer are evil and whatever. Is there any sort of basis for that? Is it really that you put, because am I doing something terrible by making some French fries on the air fryer or something? Because that's kind of a big deal right now. People just crapping on air fryers and telling that it's super unhealthy or whatever. And I don't know what to say. I don't know if that's real or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate
That's a
that so much because I use air fryers almost every day.
That's
Yeah.
a great question. I have used my air fryer for today for lunch, but I'm gonna give you some insights on that. Eric, just so you know, there is a book, just finishing the other subject. There is a book called Change Your Diet, Change Your Mind by Dr. Georgia Ed. There is a big now conversation about psychology, metabolic nutrition, and nutritional psychiatry.
Yeah.
And this lady wrote this book, which is amazing. And she's gonna talk about how she treated many of her patients that never responded to medications on depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, a lot of those issues, mental issues, and they responded to a ketogenic diet or a carnivore diet or a low carb diet. So what I like about her book is that by the end, so she's going to demystify a lot of those claims in nutrition that we need a lot of plans and we need a lot of, those things. And she's gonna, by the end, she's gonna give you a plan, a transition plan to the carnivore diet if that's your wish. So
Right.
she recommends that you start with what she calls quiet paleo, which is what she's proposing there, which is a paleo diet, more of like a low carb diet, more like paleo-ish diet. Then you can transition to a ketogenic diet that she proposes there, and then you go to the carnivore diet. What I don't recommend, as well as her, as you go like immediately, like if you're eating carbohydrates and even plants and everything, like to next week I'm gonna start a carnivore diet. I don't recommend that because they're gonna feel a lot of the symptoms, like the withdrawal of eating plants and carbohydrates and all. But that book is a great guide for those who's starting.
Right.
So let's talk about.
Oh, sorry, just a minute. Hi, Simone. Nice have you here. Better late than never.
No, she was on the call for a while now.
Yeah. Hi, Simone. Nice to
Hey,
meet you.
sorry, I made it. I'm here. I have been listening.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, go ahead. If you have any, if you have any question, Lorne and Marcella, if you have any doubt about your diet, Lorne, this is the moment to
Yes, I
to
have.
discover your
I
diet.
also have a
Okay,
question,
go
but I'm
ahead,
gonna
Marcella.
wait. I'm gonna wait.
Oh no, Simone, please, you have to answer first.
Okay, my question is, I'm 44 years old, and Yeah, this kind of things start to happen, that our hormones, they change. And even if you're active, exercising, and you try to go on a diet, you still have that feeling that your belly, it's really like high, like your
Bloated?
yeah, your upper belly. You still, you have that the feeling that it doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't go away anymore like it used to. You know what I mean? So is it really something with the hormones, or it's really a diet that I and most of the women at my age, they could follow to help with that?
Yes, great question. And yes, I'm gonna answer that in a minute. There's a lot to talk about that as well. Let me just quickly address the air fryer thing. And okay, let's talk about the air fryer. Okay, from my research, so every time I hear a claim in the internet or from other professionals and everything, I go do my own research, because I know there's a lot of professionals still repeating things from epidemiological studies or studies that they're not proving that thing. That being said, everything I found until recently was not claiming anything bad about the air fryer, except when you fry carbohydrates. When your carbohydrates get black, that black crust that gets in when you burn it, that creates a toxin called acrimamida in Portuguese. And that thing, not only for the air fryer, but anything that you eat out there, when you go to a restaurant and they bring your salmon pretty much burned on the top with those strips, like from the fryer,
from the
and
grill,
from the grill, and also vegetables don't eat that. That's toxin. That's pretty established by the literature. That's toxin. Like, remove that part. Or many times what I tell people before they bring me the plate, because I have had people changing my plate because, okay, I'm not gonna eat this, sorry, like this is burned, like please bring me another. And then what I tell people in advance, say, okay, please don't burn, just please like tell them not to burn anything, like don't burn the meat, don't burn the vegetables, that's terrible. Okay, with that being said, the problem people have with the air fryer is when you burn something in there, especially carbohydrate, that kind of acrimamida is toxic from the body, for the body, and it's not good. However, guys, there is a podcast called Diary of a CEO. I don't know if you guys heard of it. In the internet, and the host, he brought a lady, I want to find her name, who only talks about toxins, and she tells her entire story about how she could not get pregnant because of all the toxins that she was getting from beauty products, or from plastic, that kind of thing. And this lady is pretty much against air fryer because she said that basically the compartment, the material that surrounds the air fryer inside, that's not safe, and that pretty much goes to the food. With that being said, she's also against silicone, because I don't cook with anything like plastic or anything. I don't heat my food in plastic. And especially now that you guys will hear more and more about microplastics, that it's pretty much everywhere, from tea bags, for example, that you can find those microplastics in your body that are like billions of microplastics that they're finding in the body right now. And so I avoid plastics as much as possible, but she said even silicone is not safe. However, I have not checked her data yet. So I'm still in the middle. So as long as I don't burn my food, I still use my air fryer. I love my air fryer, by the way. But
it's super good.
Eventually I find something that, okay, I'm gonna have to let this go. I'm gonna let it go. Because at the end, those chemicals can be in the body, and they can be very hard to detoxify eventually. I don't care about what you do in the exception, but I care a lot about what we do on a daily basis as a habit. So Yeah,
Right.
I'm gonna by the end of here, like I'm gonna find her name so you guys can follow and have your own conclusions about, you know, what she says about those things.
Right.
Okay,
Cool.
so, okay, good.
Okay.
Yeah.
About Simone question.
Yeah, the only thing is that I don't recommend you guys go over 160 degrees on the air fryer. That's what I do. 160 degrees, it's gonna take a little longer, but if you put 15 minutes, 160, that's perfect. It won't burn. It's gonna get that, you know, that very light brown. It's gonna be perfect. Yeah.
All right. That's a good one. Thank you.
Very good tip. Thank you, because I always use 180. So it's not
No.
good.
I go straight to 200.
No, yeah. In the oven, 180 is fine because the oven is way bigger. So it gets like, it takes more time for the heat to go to the food. But the air fryer is that small space. So you don't need all that heat. So 160, and then you need more time. That's all you need.
Right.
Right.
All right. So Simone, yeah, you are right. What we did in our 30s and our some 20s won't work anymore after our 40s. That's because our hormones start to change, and especially the drop in estrogen and a little bit of oscillation in progesterone, and we get more sensitive to cortisol and insulin. Insulin and cortisol are going to be responsible for storing more belly fat, like here in this area in the belly. And the thing is that there are some differences that we need to address when we are taking care of our bodies over 40. One of the things is that our diets, I see way better results when women do low carb, but avoid zero carb. No carb is no good for women. We need to do low carb, but if you have insulin resistance, and if your insulin in your blood test, that's for all of you, by the way. If your insulin, the hormone, is over 6, even though the lab will show that until 13, or some labs will show that until 25 is normal, you are on your way to insulin resistance, okay? So the limit is 6 in your blood test. And then the problem is that when women like us, for example, we do our 1 hour fitness exercise in the morning or in the afternoon, and then the rest of the day we are sitting, working, typing on the computer. We're not using all that carbohydrate that we're eating. So one of the things is manage carbohydrate in each meal, but that's different from cutting carbohydrate. Don't cut carbohydrate. That's a problem, because that's going to spike cortisol, and that cortisol high is going to be terrible for belly fat. So that's one thing. The other thing is that we hear a lot about intermittent fasting. So I love intermittent fasting. That's great. However, women over 40 should not do intermittent fasting as we used to when we were younger. Fasted workout for women, it's a no-no. Okay, no. Even though you feel great, okay? I feel great, but I don't do that anymore, because now the most important thing that you need to prioritize is muscle mass. That's going to be your gold, you know, after 40, men and women, your gold is muscle mass, not fasting, regardless of what you hear about autophagy and all of that, you know. Okay, those are great, those are real, but you want to be very strategic about your fasting. And that's one thing I want to clarify for everyone. 12 hours is not fasting, okay? 12 hours no eating is the minimum that you should do for just to rest your digestive system. And we should all do that, okay? 12 hours. What does that mean? I stop eating anything with calories, eating or drinking, by 8 p.m., for example, 8, and then I only eat again at 8 a.m. in the morning. Or even better, I bring my dinner to earlier. So I eat at 7 or 6:30. And by the way, I love those habits from countries like maybe Canada is the same, but the US, I love that they have the culture of early dinner. Here in Brazil, this is so annoying that people go out to eat at 8, 9, they're arriving at the restaurants. That's awful for your health, for your digestion. And I'm like, people who go out with me, they already know, like, there's no way I'm gonna go out to eat with you at 9, okay? I'm gonna be the person who's gonna be opening the restaurants at 7 here in Brazil, because that's awful, guys. And then you sleep with all that food, you're at 10 p.m. and there's something called your circadian clock, your circadian rhythm. Do you guys know what's that? Have you heard of it?
No,
Yes?
not at all.
No? Okay.
No.
So basically your body has a biological clock that responds to light during the day and light during the evening. That was the theme of a Nobel Prize back in 2017. They proved that organisms like us, like plants, like things, when we are exposed to bright light, as we are right now, like it's still like almost 5, but it's bright, our bodies are gonna do things differently from what it does in the evening when there's no lights anymore. And that includes signaling hunger hormones, improving digestion, releasing certain hormones, shutting down other hormones. And that's what it is. And our lives today, our modern lives, they're totally against this clock. Because now what do we do in the evening? We're all with this bright light in our eyes, scrolling, releasing a lot of cortisol in the evening when there should be low. There should be, like, your cortisol should be very low. And that's another problem, Simone, for like when I'm addressing hormonal issues in women and all of that. Sleep is the first thing I'm going to check. Like, how's your sleep? How is your sleep routine? How is your light exposure in the evening? Okay, that's one thing, because the production of melatonin is going to be shut, and then cortisol is going to be very high in the evening. That's awful for sleep, which is awful for belly fat, and is awful for muscle growth and all of that, you know, when you don't sleep. And also it's very bad for that mental, just like a mental reset that we have during the REM sleep that we get when we sleep. So that's the other thing. So what I'm saying is that the earlier you eat, the earlier you have your breakfast, the better for the circadian clock, because at 10 p.m. your digestion stops by like 80% according to this biological clock. Yeah, so, and then the other problem, there's a lot of people now with reflux. I treat a lot of patients with reflux, and that's because they eat by 10, by 11, and then they go to bed. Or they lay down to watch something, you know, in TV. So modern life is challenging now, but there's a lot of things that you can do, like, to address that. And you can use, for example, in your iPhone, if you go to light shift, if you go to light, find like something light, and there is a device there that you can activate that calls night sleep or night shift. And then this night shift is going to create like a block of this blue light in the evening. So it's better for you to use your phone when you're doing that. So with that being said, 12 hours is what everyone should be doing except for children. Like 12 hours just to, okay, let's take a break. Let my digestion system take a break, rest. And then now I'm gonna play with fasting. And that's something that may sound unfair, but men do way better with fasting than women. Okay, so guys can play way more with that. They can fast for like 13, 14, 16, sometimes 18 hours, and they feel amazing, they feel great, they can have benefits from that. Us, we need to be more careful because of cortisol release. So I'd say, Simone, and then that's gonna play with your cycle. When are the best times for women to play with fasting? And no fasted workouts, okay? No fasted workouts. For us, what are the best times? When we are in the follicular phase of our cycle. So from day 1 of your menstruation until day 14, 15, 16, you're good to play with fasting until day 19, I'd say, okay? Follicular, the follicular phase. From day 19 until menstruation again, which your PMS phase and all of that, no fasting, only the 12 hours of, you know, digestive rest.
Okay.
And then when you are eating, like when you are fasting, when you're playing with fasting for women, we can play with 14 hours max, 14, 16 max, a few times a week. That's great.
Okay, let's jump for João question.
Yes.
Thank
Well,
you.
Sure.
Yeah, so my question is about something that seems to be very controversial in this world of nutrition, which is milk and eggs. Because a lot of people say that milk is inflammatory and that you shouldn't drink a lot of milk, and eggs as well. Sometimes you see studies or specialists saying that you can eat eggs as you will, right? And other specialists say that it's actually bad for you because of, I think, sodium, right? So what's your take on that?
Okay, I posted today on the stories on my Instagram. I posted I was having eggs for breakfast, and then I said, okay, eggs are one of the best sources of protein if you're not allergic to the protein of eggs. And if your doctor is telling you to stop eating eggs because of high cholesterol, change your doctor. You know, he doesn't understand a bit of what raises cholesterol. That's what I wrote in my Instagram today. All right, let's address milk and eggs. So let's start with eggs. Eggs are one of the best sources of protein, basically, if you're not allergic to the egg white. Some people can be allergic to egg white. Some people have unexplicable constipation that can be due to egg whites, because food sensitivity is not only about you eating something and you're passing out immediately or you're throwing out or any of that. It can be pretty silent. I learned that throughout the years, with myself including. So as long as you're not allergic to eggs or egg whites, it's pretty hard to be allergic to eggs, to eggs in general, but only the egg whites are problematic. So to egg yolks, I meant to say. So as long as you're not allergic, eggs are great. Eggs do not raise cholesterol. If I need to repeat that a million times, there's no such thing, there's no such literature. What raises cholesterol is carbohydrates, flour, sugar, that raises cholesterol, okay? I have lowered the cholesterol of many clients, so many clients, okay? And I never cut eggs from their diet. But still, today, in 2025, there are doctors repeating, including to my mom. My mom has a chronic elevated cholesterol. Now we normalized her cholesterol, and her doctor told her to cut eggs. Okay, and please don't throw away the egg yolk. The egg yolk is so nutritious, okay? It has choline, which is amazing for your eyes, for example, and it has the very good cholesterol that your body needs to produce neurotransmitters, to produce hormones and all of that. So eggs are amazing, unless, of course, you have an allergy, okay?
Would you put a limit on the quantity of eggs that you should eat in a day? Would there be a limit?
No. If you have no intolerance, there is no limit. I don't know if you guys are followed recently Graciani, who is in Big Brother. She eats like something like 40 eggs a day or something, and she's pretty fine. I don't want to eat 40 eggs a day because I want to eat other things. And anyway, it's not a problem. Like, you can eat as many eggs as you want. I'd say I like being between 2 and 4 a day. That's for me. But I don't see a problem if a client eats 6 eggs a day, like if that's convenient for them and they don't have any intolerances or anything. Now, milk. Milk is more complicated because dairy, the problem with dairy is pasturase. And pasturase means that it needs to go to that process of heating dairy to kill the bugs that could be problematic to us. With that being said, you're also killing all the good bacteria that has in dairy, like the probiotics and everything. That is one problem. So basically, okay, you can drink you can drink milk, but the most benefits you're not getting if you're getting pasture-raised milk. That's one thing. The other thing is that if you're not an animal, you don't have an enzyme called I'm gonna have to think that in English now. But basically there is an enzyme in dairy that we don't have as humans, and we don't have the enzyme to digest. If you're not the children of a cow, we cannot digest that. So a lot of people will have problems with not only lactose, because a lot of people focus on lactose. They think lactose is the problem. And lactose is only the sugar, the natural sugar of dairy. That's all it is. Most of the problems with dairy is the protein of dairy, casein, like all the proteins it has, because the molecule is very big for us humans to digest. And a lot of people will have a lot of problems with dairy because of that, because of the protein. Some people have problem with casein, not casein, but lactose, but that's easy to correct. You can take a lactase enzyme, and then you should be fine. But the problem with a lot of people is the protein. And if you have all sorts of allergies, if you have skin problems, if you have a lot of if you have acne in your face and in your body, if you sneeze a lot, if you have a lot of mucus in your body, that's dairy. If you have a lot of constipation, dairy. So dairy is like related with a lot of health, like with a lot of bad symptoms. With that being said, some people can tolerate more dairy than others, and then all you have to do is experiment with that and follow that. So I'm not either like against, or I don't think it's the most amazing thing. You don't need dairy for anything. You don't need dairy for calcium. You don't need dairy for nothing, basically. So it's a preference. You can have it or not, but you need to be aware of intolerances, and it's very easy, very common these days to have dairy intolerances.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's where we are run out of time. But Marcela, could you make your question to Elaina, please?
I'm sorry, guys, but it's a quick one. Elaina, and what about the gluten? Because I'm so restrictive with gluten in my diet because, oh, it's inflammative. Oh, you retain liquid in your body if you consume gluten. So what do you say about it? Thanks.
Yeah. So gluten is another thing, another problem. If you're intolerant to gluten, but the thing is that a lot of people will focus on the fact that, oh, I'm not a celiac, so I'm good with gluten. And many times you are very sensitive to gluten, and that's very much related to our gut environment these days. So because of processed foods is so broad and it's so easy, I don't know about you, but I was born and I was raised, yes, eating rice, beans, healthy food at home, but also eating a lot of processed, a lot of those chocolate that are not chocolate. They're like sugar with vegetable oil flavored chocolate. And, and I was born with McDonald's, and I was born with drinking soda. So I was born eating all of those things, and those things pretty much destroyed my gut. And then with that in mind, it's very easy to be intolerant to dairy and gluten and have gluten sensitivity. Until today, I have to take care of that. So my problem with gluten basically is that if you're eating a lot of gluten, that means you're eating a lot of package. So it's not the gluten itself. Like my philosophy is that we should really aim to eat 90% of what we eat is like clean, healthy foods that has no label, like that has no ingredient list. And then the other 10%, we can play with it. So Marcela, if you have a lot of sensitivity today, that your gut needs to be addressed. So and that means basically excluding for a while and really doing it like treating your gut, like really removing other things that can be aggressive to your gut, treating your gut. And then when you reintroduce, I don't think it's even healthy that you eat gluten every single day, but which means you're eating package every single day. So, but I don't see like a problem, like if you're eating once a week, twice a week, and now that your gut is healed, and then you're gonna see that you can tolerate gluten way better.
Okay,
Perfect,
people.
Elaina.
Well, I think.
I'm sorry, Renato.
Go ahead.
Oh, no. I think that you have run out of time. But complete your question, Marcelo, please.
No, it's just to, I think it's all about the equilíbrio, the balance.
Balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But
Thank
the
you so
problem
much.
but the problem with balance is that when you are chronically inflamed, like when your gut is inflamed, and it's very hard to have balance. And people have a lot of sugar cravings, and it's easy to overeat sugar and flour because they're addicted to it. Like their gut is like a mess, and it's very easy. So you have to really cut it off for a while, really, like something like 1 to 3 months or something, and really include the things that are going to repair your gut, and then you go to this balance, which is perfect.
Okay, people. Well, I think that you went over 5 minutes, but it was amazing. I think that your presentation will be here in the YouTube and then and our platform. So, Elaina, thank you very much for your participation, and for everybody, Lorne, Marcela, Eric, João, and Simone. Nice to have you here, and I hope to see you soon. Okay, so bye bye. Have a good
All right,
rest of
see
the
Bye,
week.
you.
guys.
Thank
Bye bye.
you.
Thank you.
So
Bye bye.
much. Bye bye, guys. Thank you, Elaina. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Bye
Thank you.
bye.
Bye.